who'd kindly agreed to sponsor Emily for the little season. There was every possibility she would meet a man and catch his interest enough that he would approach her uncle for permission to court her. Emily almost smiled. Perhaps tonight she would dance with the Earl of Pembroke. Last night the handsome Earl had smiled at her during their introduction and asked her to dance. Emily had nearly wept with disappointment when she informed him that Mrs. Pratchett had already filled her dance card. The Earl had replied, "Another time, then," and Emily nodded eagerly, hoping he would remember her. "Perhaps tonight I shall have a spot of luck." She desperately hoped so. Emily wasn't so foolish as to believe she had any real chance of marrying a man like the Earl of Pembroke, but it was nice to be noticed by a man of his standing. Sometimes that attention was noticed by others. The coach halted sharply a moment later, and she nearly toppled out of her seat, her thoughts interrupted, her daydreams fleeing. "Ho there, my good man!" a man shouted from nearby. Emily moved toward the door, but the vehicle rocked as someone climbed onto the driver's seat, and she fell back in her seat again. £20 is yours if you follow those 2 riders ahead, and do as we ask," the newly arrived man said. Having regained control of her balance, she flung the coach curtains back. 2 riders occupied the darkened street, their backs to her. What was going on? A sense of ill-ease settled deep in her stomach. The coach jerked and moved again. As she had feared, the driver didn't stop at Chesley House. He followed the riders ahead. What was this? A kidnapping? A robbery? Should she stick her head out of the window and ask them to stop? If robbing her was their intent, asking them what they were doing might be a bad idea. Why would they take her when there were so many other heiresses, ones more lovely than her, having their first come-out this year? Surely this wasn't an abduction. Her mind reeled as she struggled to cope with the situation. What would her father have done in this situation? Load a pistol and fight them off? Having no pistol, she'd have to think of something clever. Could these men be reasoned with? Unlikely. Emily worried her bottom lip as she debated her options. She could scream for help, but such a reaction could worsen matters. She could open the door and throw herself out onto the street, but the clatter of hooves behind the coach erased that idea. She'd be lucky to survive the fall if she tried, and the horses behind were too close. She'd likely be killed. Emily fell back against the seat with a shaky sigh, her heart racing. She'd have to wait until the driver stopped. For what seemed like an hour, she kept nervously glancing out the windows to assess what direction the coach was going. By now London was far behind her. Only open country stretched on both sides of the road. A rumble of hooves heralded an approaching rider, and a man astride a sleek black gelding galloped past the window. He was too close, and the horse too tall for her to get a good view of him. The moonlight rippled off the horse's shiny coat as it rode past. She knew by the close proximity of the rider and the determined way he rode in the saddle that he was involved with this business. Who in their right mind, except perhaps that foul old man Blankenship, would kidnap her? He'd be the sort to engage in such a nefarious activity. The other evening he'd come to dinner at her uncle's house, and when her uncle had turned away for only a second, Blankenship had twined one of his thick, stubby fingers around a lock of her hair, tugging it hard until she'd nearly cried out. He'd whispered horrible things in her ear, nasty things that made her sick, as he told her he planned to marry her as soon as her uncle had approved. Emily had stared back at him, stating she'd never marry him. He'd only laughed and said, "We'll see, my sweet, we'll see." Well, she wouldn't back down. She wasn't some pawn to be captured and held at someone's mercy. They'd have to fight to take her. Emily looked out the window on the other side to count the riders. 2 led the party at the front, mere yards ahead. Another 2 flanked the coach on either side. One of them rode with a second horse roped to his saddle, likely for the man who rode now with the driver.